There are certain mistakes which are usually made by IELTS candidates during their speaking tests. In today's video, the 7 common mistakes in IELTS speaking tests, we are going to identify what these 7 common mistakes are and what are the best practices to avoid them. Mistake number 1. Giving brief answers. Have a look at this dialogue here. Question number 1. What's your name? Answer number 1. Alfred. Question number 2. Where do you live? Answer number 2. St. Louis. Question number 3. What's your favorite dish? Answer number 3. Pasta. You can note that the candidate in this dialogue gave brief answers. This is a very common mistake among a large number of candidates during their speaking test. Remember that the examiner is not interested in your personal details when he asks you questions such as what's your name or where do you live. Those questions are rather meant to make you talk so that the examiner can assess your English speaking capacity. At the beginning of your speaking test, you will have to answer some personal information questions which represent an opportunity for you to impress your examiner. You should expect different personal information questions and you can prepare them in advance. When you answer those questions, try to speak at length and give elaborate answers. Have a look at this dialogue here. What's your name? Answer number 1. My name is Alfred Tyler. Question number 2. Where do you live? Answer number 2. I live in a small city called St. Louis, which is half an hour drive from here. Question number 3. What's your favorite food? Answer number 3. Actually, I like several dishes, but the one I prefer most is pasta. Again, you can notice here that unlike the answers given in the first dialogue, which were too brief, the answers given in this second sample dialogue are long enough and elaborate. Mistake number 2. Talking too much. Some people might think that when they talk too much, they can impress the examiner. But that's not always true. Talking too much creates a poor impression. The more you talk, the more mistakes you are likely to make. And you should remember that the speaking test takes between 11 to 14 minutes. And if you take longer time to answer each of the questions, you will certainly take more than 14 minutes, and this would not satisfy your examiner. That's why you should avoid talking too much. You should match your answers to the questions. Give short answers when the questions require short answers. Give a one-sentence answer for questions which require no more than that. And give several sentences for questions which require long answers. This is mostly the case with section number 2 of the speaking test when you are required to speak for 2 minutes non-stop. While speaking, the eye contact you maintain with the examiner can indicate if you have overspoken. You can understand that from the examiner's facial expressions and gestures. Mistake number 3. Extended silence. In IELTS speaking test situation, your extended silence during your answer time can only indicate your inability to express your ideas in English. It is okay to pause for 1 or 2 seconds to project confidence and control over the situation. But if your silence takes longer moments, then this is a disadvantage. In speaking tests, giving no answer is much worse than giving a poor one. Likewise, in a speaking test, silence means failure. You should avoid silence, especially at part 2 of the speaking test, where we will be given a topic to speak about for 2 minutes. Some people may take some silent moments to think, but instead of keeping silent, you can use filler expressions while thinking about what to say. These are examples of filler expressions that you can use. That's a tough question. Let me see. Well, actually, basically, seriously. Mistake number 4. Mispronunciation. The word mispronunciation is defined as incorrect or inaccurate pronunciation. The speaking test is meant to assess how you speak English. That's why pronunciation accounts for 25% of the speaking test. You may practice pronouncing difficult or unfamiliar words before the exam. However, during the speaking test, you should avoid using certain words and phrases if you are not sure of their pronunciation. because that can affect your score remarkably. The good news for non-native speakers of English is that accent and the influence of mother tongue don't impact the speaking score as far as the pronunciation is correct. Mistake number 5. Overstress and anxiety. Stress and anxiety are commonly experienced by most test takers. It is normal to feel overstressed and anxious before and at the beginning of your IELTS speaking test. That's very normal. But that should fade away and disappear as soon as you start to conversate with your examiner. Unfortunately, not all candidates can get rid of their stress and anxiety, and as a result, some candidates appear diffident, timid, and lacking self-confidence. They tend to stutter, to stumble, and to make slips of the tongue, and overall they fail to convince the examiner. You can relieve stress and anxiety by different means and practices, including the following. First, you should prepare yourself both mentally and psychologically before the exam. Then, believe in yourself. Reinforce your self-confidence. Breathe well. Have a positive self-attitude. And finally, remember that the examiner is not an alien. Mistake number 6. Poor body language. The term body language refers to physical acts and behavior such as facial expressions, body posture, eye contact, hand movement, gestures, and the use of space. You should know that 55% of our communication is non-verbal, which means that your body language is very important during the speaking test. Your body language can tell a lot about what you are thinking about and what you are feeling. Avoid poor body language, including sitting and crossing legs at knees, or crossing arms at chest, fidgeting, not smiling, and no eye contact. Instead, you should smile warmly to your examiner. You should avoid being too serious. You should also sit firmly. You should also avoid crossing legs over knees and arms over chest. Likewise, you should also maintain constant eye contact with your examiner because it shows respect and self-confidence. Added to that, good posture is also required. Finally, you should avoid fidgeting. The 7th mistake is not understanding questions properly. During the IELTS speaking test, you may fail to understand some questions or to hear some words. And then you start answering and you don't even know whether your answer is relevant or irrelevant. When you do so, you are more likely to go off topic. You should know that there are no worries with asking your examiner for a clarification. Use polite language like the following. Would you please repeat this last question? Excuse me? And do you mean that? Etc.